Good afternoon, folks, for another freelance teacher videocast. I would like to share with you some thoughts about failure and that failure is something that you should embrace. And I've talked about this a little bit in the past, so this will be reasonably short because I've mentioned in the past that at my regular job at the high school, we have a sign that all people going into that section, the ninth grade section, see, and it says, Ninth Grade Success Academy, failure is not an option. And I think that's a huge mistake. I think that mindset is a huge mistake. And mindset is one of these words that's big now. And unfortunately, the fact that mindset is a popular word, it actually cheapens the legitimate idea of mindset, of where your head is as a person with goals and wanting to become a fuller human and somebody of note. So this sign has always bothered me, and it says failure is not an option. And I get reminded of the folly of that sign all the time. I've been listening to a couple of podcasts from a bunch of different places. Thaddeus Russell's podcast, Unregistered. Brett Venat, a guy up in New England, runs a podcast called School Sucks Project. And he was just talking to somebody recently who dropped out of college. And I believe the podcast is called The Successful Dropout. I'll have to double check. And he was talking about failure and the usefulness of it. And I kept thinking to myself, at school, we do the opposite. We tell young people to assiduously avoid failure. And, I don't. I know that that's not right. But, you have me and a few others who are willing to have students get to failure and not shy away from failure. And the key is to learn from failure. You have people out there like that. But in general, the atmosphere of school, for the most part, is to avoid failure. And I think that's a huge mistake. There has to be some kind of learning process going on if you're going to become successful in whatever way. It may be successful in your bank account. It could be in relationships. It could be in sports. It could be in a certain skill or a certain craft. A person is going to need to fail. And that learning process is what causes you to advance and move forward and not fail again, or at least not fail the same way. Now, that could involve serious pain. It could involve bad grades. It could involve a physical pain. It could involve embarrassing yourself. Failure isn't something that's going to be enjoyable. None of the people I listen to in podcasts, when you read about successful entrepreneurs or captains of industry or intellectual thought leaders, people of note in terms of influence regarding economics or history, well-written people, novelists, those people don't ever say it was an easy road and it just kind of happened. And they all talk about, and some of them glorify it. Some of them glorify their time when they were living in their car, or when things were really bad, or when they, barely had enough to pay rent. But even those who do that, they had a time when they struggled, and they had to get past the difficult parts, and they had to see through failure. So, it's one of those things where you have to be aware of that as a young person. You have to be careful that you're not surrounded by adults or even older young people where they tell you to avoid failure, where failure is going to be something that is terrible, and you want to make sure you shy away from it, because then you won't advance. And I'll leave you with this quote that I saw. There was a great talk by Tim Ferriss. He did a short, it's about 12 minutes, and it's on my website, and he talks about the Stoics, and he talks about his way of thinking that leads to success, and the Stoic philosophy within his methods and within his mindset. But he talks about an older weightlifter who barely made it to the United States alive. He was in Eastern Europe behind the Iron Curtain, and his business partner, confidant, was killed, and he and his wife barely made it out, and they came to the United States with literally nothing. And the guy's quote is, and it's a good one, and you should write it down. I know I have it sitting on a Post-it note on my desk. It's easy decisions, hard life. hard decisions, easy life. And the simplicity of that quote is fantastic, because if you only make easy decisions, and that's where avoiding failure comes from, it's what made me think of this. If you only make the easy decisions and you avoid the hard decisions because they could result in serious failure, then that will lead to a harder life. You'll never confront the things that you're afraid of, and you'll never confront the failure that you need to get past if you only make the easy decisions. If you make the hard decisions and you see them through and you deal with what the results are, regardless of their positive or negative levels, it leads to easy life. So it's kind of a way of saying to tackle the hard decisions. Go and make the hard decisions and deal with the consequences. And when the sun rises the next day and things continue, you'll realize that you made it through. And that kind of inertia and that kind of building of yourself will lead to eventually an easier life in whichever respect you wish, and your ability to handle the confrontation and the failure. And I think it's fantastic advice. I have a post-it note that says just that. Easy decisions, hard life. Hard decisions, easy life. And I think I'm going to see it through. I'm going to try. I have a couple of projects, and there are times when the hard decision is I have to get rid of something or not do something I would enjoy, and I need to do the things that I don't enjoy in order to have the financially successful, independently wealthy life that I desire. So I'd just like to leave you with that. It came up all the time, and so the short message is make sure that you do not shy away from failure, that failure is an option, and a case could be made that failure is the best option and the one that you are actually looking for. And you should, while dealing with difficulty, you should respect that you got through it and move forward after it. Thank you very much. This is The Freelance Teacher, thefreelancesteacher.com. I'm Doug Marola. Talk to you next time.